I never saw it coming. Looking back, I can't believe I was so blind, so damn stupid. My life had been a mess for months before I found out, and in some twisted way, I thought I was holding it together. I just lost my job. The kind of job I could have sworn was my ticket out, my safety net. Instead, I was left with nothing but a hollow feeling in my gut and the constant gnawing worry about how I'd pay rent next month. My wife, Lisa, she's always been charming, sweet when she wanted to be, cold when she needed to be. We've been together for 5 years. I always thought we had something real, something solid. She was the kind of girl who knew how to play her cards, smile just enough, nod when she agreed, all the while keeping her secrets close. That night I was a mess. Sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, my stomach clenched from the stress, my hands trembling. I was trying to think of ways to tell her I couldn't keep up the rent when I heard her keys in the door. I looked up, expecting her usual cheerful "hey, babe," but she was tense, tight-lipped. I could see it in her eyes right away, even before she spoke. "Hey," she said softly, avoiding my gaze. I need to talk to you about something." My stomach sank. That tone, I knew it. It was the tone of someone hiding something, covering up a lie. I felt the blood drain from my face. "What is it?" She hesitated, then sank down on the couch beside me. I could feel her trembling. I've been seeing someone else," she blurted out. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "It's been a few months, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to happen." That's when I saw it. The phone on the coffee table open and the message from her lover still visible. I remember the sharp jolt in my chest, my fingers curling into fists. I stared at the screen, feeling the world tilt. Her words, her tone, everything felt surreal. I couldn't breathe right. My mind raced. How long? Who was he? How could I have missed all the signs? I looked at her, my voice hoarse. "Who is he? Her?" Eyes flicked away. It's your brother." The room went cold, everything slowed down. My brother, my own flesh and blood. The betrayal was so thick I couldn't think straight, my stomach twisted. I felt a rush of heat, then cold sweat. The scent of stale coffee, the rough texture of the couch beneath my fingertips, all faded into the background. I stared at her, numb. The next few days passed in a blur of shock and rage. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the lying, smiling face of my own brother. I wanted to scream, break something, anything to let the anger out. But the most brutal part was the physical evidence. I found the receipts, tiny slips of paper with her phone number scribbled on them in his handwriting. On the back of a grocery store receipt, I saw a lipstick stain, a lipstick that matched the shade she'd been wearing that evening. I had never been so blindsided in my life, and I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the red flags? She was late more often, secretive about her phone, and always had an excuse ready. I told myself she was stressed, tired, that I was overthinking. I told myself she loved me and maybe I was just paranoid, but deep down I knew. The gut feeling had been there all along, buried under the lies I kept telling myself. That night I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I needed to know how deep this went. I started digging through her things, looking for answers. I found the hotel receipts, the texts, the pictures hidden in her email drafts. It was all there, laid out like a betrayal menu. That's when I saw the proof that changed everything, an exact date and time, a photo of her in bed with my brother. I felt my stomach turn, and for a moment I thought I might throw up. I knew then I had to do something. I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. I was going to make them pay. But how? I had no idea yet. I only knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same after that. My world had shattered and I needed a plan, a real plan, one that would make them regret ever crossing me. I sat there staring at the photo on my phone, feeling the rage bubble up inside me. I needed to think carefully, because once I moved, there was no turning back. I felt the cold sweat trickle down my spine as the weight of what I was about to do settled in. I was too hurt, too furious. And I knew this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about justice, my justice. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The shock of discovering my wife's affair with my brother hit me like a freight train. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in bed with him, her face flushed, the way she'd looked so damn innocent in every photo I'd found. That innocence had been a lie. I felt this hot, bitter rage bubbling in my chest like a fire I couldn't put out. I'd always thought I knew her, thought I knew my family. Turns out I'd been blind. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was physical, visceral, and it cut deep into my bones. One night, after hours of sitting alone in my apartment, I decided I needed to come up with a plan. I couldn't just confront them blindly. I had to be smart, calculated. I had to make them regret ever crossing me. So I started by thinking about what I knew, what I saw, what I had in hand. I pulled out my phone, stared at the photos of her and him. The proof was irrefutable. The receipts, the messages, the photos, it was all there. It was ugly, and for the first time in my life, I felt helpless and furious all at once. I spent hours researching how to get revenge without crossing the line. I wasn't the type to go off the rails and do something stupid. I wanted them to feel the pain, to see the damage they'd caused. I knew I had to strike where it hurt most: her reputation, her trust, her sense of security. That's when I decided to gather everything and make her face the truth. I wanted her to see I wasn't going to let this slide. The following day, I went to a nearby cafe, acting casual but taking mental notes. I broke into her email account, my own way, I guess, since I knew her passwords. Everything she'd been hiding, it was all there. The flirty messages to my brother, her secret plans. The times she'd slipped away, lying about where she was. The worst part was how easily she'd convinced herself I'd never find out. I found the hotel reservations, her and him sneaking out late at night. The lingerie she'd bought for him, the lipstick stains on the receipts. Every detail was like a dagger to my heart, only fueling my desire for payback. I wasn't going to just confront her. No, I wanted something more lasting, something that would shake her to her core. I was going to destroy her carefully constructed lies piece by piece. I reached out to a few contacts I had, people who knew how to handle delicate situations without crossing legal lines. I wanted her to see the damage coming from inside her perfect little world. I planned to leak the truth, but carefully, just enough so she'd understand that her secrets weren't safe anymore. In the meantime, I kept my cool around her. I acted as if I didn't know. I didn't want her to catch on. I kept asking questions, pretending I was oblivious. That night I watched her like a hawk. She was nervous, fidgeting, avoiding my gaze. I saw the panic in her eyes. Good. That's what I wanted. I knew she was starting to realize that her world was crumbling. The small cracks in her perfect facade were showing, and I was ready to pour gasoline on them. The plan was simple: make her believe I knew everything, then let her sweat it out. I would give her just enough rope to hang herself. I knew she'd try to cover her tracks, to lie her way out, but I had enough proof to back me up. I wanted her to feel the fear, the dread. I wanted her to understand that this wasn't just some fling, this was betrayal, and it was going to cost her everything. I could almost taste the moment of reckoning. The thrill of revenge was intoxicating. I imagined her face when she finally realized I'd uncovered her lies. The guilt, the panic, it would all hit her at once. I wasn't going to rush it, though. I needed to be patient, to wait until the perfect moment. But I knew one thing for sure: once the floodgates opened, there'd be no going back. And my brother, I wasn't stupid enough to leave him out of the game. I had my own plans for him, plans that would make him regret the day he decided to betray family over some fleeting night of pleasure. I didn't have much of an emotional attachment to him anymore, not after I saw those photos. That's why I was confident. I was ready. And soon, they'd all see just how far I was willing to go. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The waiting game was the hardest part. I wanted to act, to make them feel the weight of what they'd done, but I knew rushing would only blow everything apart before I was ready. So I played it cool, kept up my facade, and kept gathering evidence. Every day I'd find another piece of their double life, another message, another photograph buried in her email drafts, another slip-up. I was like a detective, piecing together the puzzle, and the closer I got, the more my stomach clenched with rage. One afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a picture, her in the same hotel room where I'd found the receipts, with her arm wrapped around him. The message read, "You're never going to see this coming." My palms went cold. I stared at the screen, the rush of adrenaline making my head spin. That was it. They'd pushed me far enough. It was time to make my move. I called a friend who knew some people in the legal side, people I could trust not to cross any lines but would definitely send a message. I wanted to leak the truth in a way that would devastate her, without leaving any doubt it was me behind it. I'd send the evidence anonymously with a note that said, "Your secrets are safe with me, but not for long." I knew she'd be terrified, the kind of terror that eats you from the inside. That night I sat in my car outside her place, watching her through the window as she paced nervously, clutching her phone. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. I felt no guilt, only a cold satisfaction. I'd given her enough rope. Now it was time to watch her hang herself. I sent the leak carefully, precisely, hoping it would hit her the way I wanted. And then I waited, not able to sleep, feeling the weight of the coming storm. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Her phone was blowing up with calls, friends, family, everyone knew. The messages and photos had gone viral in our circle. Her face was pale, her hands shaking as she tried to explain herself to her mother, to her friends. I watched her from afar, a strange mix of anger and triumph swelling inside me. That's when she finally saw me, standing in the doorway, her eyes wide and glassy. "You lied to me," I said, voice steady but filled with venom. "All those years I believed in us, in you. And you were just cheating behind my back with my brother, no less." She tried to plead, to deny, but I held up the phone, showing her the evidence. "You think you can just lie and hide? Not anymore. You're done." Her lips trembled. "Please, no," I cut her off, feeling my fists clench. "You're done. I don't want to see your face ever again. Give me the keys to the house." I reached out, grabbing her wrist gently but firmly. "Now you're leaving." Her eyes welled with tears, but I saw the fear lurking beneath them. She knew her lies had been exposed, and there was no coming back from this. I handed her the keys, watching her stumble out, her face blank with shock. As she walked away, I felt the tight knot in my stomach loosen just a little. Justice in my mind was served, but I knew this wasn't the end. There was still one person I had to deal with: my brother. That night I sat alone in my apartment, replaying everything in my head. The betrayal, the lies, the deceit. My senses were on high alert, every sound seemed amplified. I kept thinking about how I'd almost believed I had a normal life, a happy marriage, a family I could trust. Turns out trust was a fragile illusion. I'd been so blind, so caught up in my own world, that I ignored all the warning signs. But that's what they didn't see coming. I wasn't just going to accept it. I was going to make them regret ever crossing me. I had a plan for my brother, and it was going to hit him where it hurt. Not physical violence, no. I wasn't about that. But I wanted him to feel the betrayal, the loss of trust, shame. Because once I was done, he'd wish he'd never been born into that family. I took a deep breath and stared at the photos one last time. Every detail now burned inside my mind. I'd let my anger simmer, form a plan, and then strike hard enough that they'd never forget. I was done being the victim. From this moment on, I was taking control, and I was going to make damn sure they all knew it. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The days that followed felt like walking through fog. My mind was sharp, but my body was tense, every nerve on edge, waiting for the right moment. I knew I had to be smart about how I approached my brother. I didn't want to blow everything up in a fit of rage or do something I'd regret. That's what they expected, a furious man losing control, but I had learned to play the long game. Patience was everything now. I started by getting into his head. Seeing him again, I realized how much his betrayal had cut. We weren't close, not anymore. I'd always thought of him as just another relative, but now I saw him differently: weak, selfish, and a coward. He thought he was safe, that I'd never find out the full extent of his lies. That's what made it easier to plan my move. One evening I invited him over for a friendly drink. I kept my tone casual. Inside I was calculating every word, every gesture. I wanted him to underestimate me, to think I was just some hurt brother lashing out. As he sat across from me in my apartment, I could see the nervousness in his eyes. "Good. That's what I wanted. You know why I asked you here," I said, voice calm but edged with steel. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about the past few months, about us, about trust." He chuckled nervously. "Yeah, I figured. Look, I didn't mean to hurt you. It was a mistake." I cut him off. "A mistake? That's what you call it? Sleeping with my wife, my own flesh and blood, and thinking I'd never find out." I leaned forward, feeling the heat rise in my face. "You think I don't know about the hotel receipts, about the photos, about all the lies?" His face went pale, sweat already forming on his brow. Listen, man, I didn't plan for any of this. It just happened. I didn't mean for you to get involved. Didn't mean for it to happen, I repeated bitterly. That's the best you've got. You betrayed me, and now you're trying to act like it's some mistake you can just brush off. He looked down, guilty. I was weak. I'm sorry, really. I never wanted to hurt you. I felt my fists tighten, palms sweating. I was seconds away from losing control, but I kept my voice steady. Sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. That's not just some fling. You crossed lines I never thought you would. You've ruined everything, our family, my marriage, my trust. Do you understand that? He nodded slowly, avoiding eye contact. Yeah, I get it. Just don't do anything stupid, all right? That's when I pulled out a small recorder I'd hidden in my pocket. I pressed record and watched his eyes flicker with recognition. It's already done, I said flatly. Every word you've said tonight, every lie, every excuse. I'm going to make sure everyone hears it. Your sorry ass is going to be exposed. His jaw clenched. You wouldn't do that. You're better than that. I chuckled coldly. You don't know me anymore. You think I'm going to let this slide? I've got more than enough proof. I'm going to make sure you pay for what you've done one way or another. I stood up, feeling the adrenaline surge through my veins. You better start thinking about how to fix this because I'm coming for blood. He looked shell-shocked, his face a mask of regret and fear. What do you want from me? I took a slow step toward him. I want you to think hard about your next move, because I'm not done yet. You're going to stay away from her, from my life, forever. And if I see you near her or anyone else in our family again, I swear, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you really are. I turned away, feeling the weight lift just a little, knowing I'd set everything into motion. That moment of confrontation was the beginning of the end for him. I had the footage, the evidence, the proof. Now I just needed to wait a little longer for everything to fall into place. As I left his house that night, I reflected on how much I'd changed. Once I'd been naive, trusting, maybe even too forgiving. Now I was hardened, ready to burn the bridges that had betrayed me. For the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of clarity. There was no going back, no fixing what was broken, only moving forward with purpose. And that purpose was clear. I was going to make sure they all knew exactly what they'd done. No more hiding, no more lies. Justice was coming, and I was going to be the one to deliver it. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The night I made my move, everything felt surreal. I sat alone in my apartment, the evidence I'd collected stacked neatly on my laptop. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the rush of adrenaline. I knew that once I exposed everything, my life would never be the same. Still, I had no choice. The betrayal cut so deep, I couldn't pretend anymore. I needed to end it, cut the head off the snake, so to speak. I sat back, took a deep breath, and stared at the screen. The plan was simple but ruthless. I would leak the evidence anonymously to the people who mattered, mutual friends, family members, even her employer if necessary. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, because that's what she'd given me. Exposure, vulnerability, lies all packed into one ugly package. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling just slightly as I prepared the message. I typed out a clear, direct email attaching the recordings, photos, and receipts. No embellishments, just raw proof. I added a note. This is what she's been hiding, the truth. You've been lied to, be careful who you trust. I paused, then hit send. The moment the email left my control, my stomach clenched. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread, like I'd just handed over a ticking bomb. Within hours, the fallout was immediate. Her phone kept ringing incessantly. Messages flooded her inbox, friends, family, colleagues. Some tried to reach her privately. Others just sent shock emojis or angry comments. I watched her from the corner of the living room through the window, her face pale as she stared at her phone, trembling. She looked like a ghost, and I didn't doubt that her whole world was collapsing around her. In the aftermath, I kept my distance. I wanted her to stew in her own turmoil. I'd already done enough damage, but I knew this wasn't over. The best part, seeing her try to deny everything when people asked her about the allegations. She'd scramble for words, trying to come up with lies, but it was all falling apart. The photographs, the recordings, they had a way of speaking for themselves. That night I finally confronted her face to face. She was sitting on her bed, clutching a pillow to her chest, eyes red and swollen. I walked in quietly, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered. She looked up at me, her lips trembling. "Did you really think you could hide this forever?" I asked coldly. "Everyone's seen the truth now. The recordings, the photos, I made sure of that." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please, don't do this. I didn't mean for it to go so far." I was weak. "You were a liar, a cheat, and a liar." I cut her off sharply. "You thought you'd get away with it. That I'd never find out, but I did. And now you're going to pay." She looked like she wanted to say something, but her voice caught in her throat. I saw the defeat in her eyes. I'd succeeded in my plan, but still it didn't feel like victory, just emptiness. I'd wanted justice, yes, but the pain was still raw. That's when I decided I had to go further, make her understand the depths of her betrayal. "I want to give you one chance," I told her, voice firm. "You're leaving town. Giving up everything, our house, your career, your life here. I want you gone, and I want you gone for good. No contact, no excuses, no coming back." Her eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am," I said. "And if I see you around, or if I hear you're trying to contact my brother, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. You won't just lose me, you'll lose everything that mattered." I reached into my pocket, pulling out a set of keys. "Here's the house key. You're leaving tonight. Pack your things and don't come back. If you try, I'll make sure the whole world knows the kind of person you really are." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face, but I was beyond caring. I'd made my point. I'd taken control. For the first time in a long while, I felt a tiny flicker of relief, like I'd finally cut the cord that bound me to the lies and betrayal. I turned and left her sitting there, the door closing softly behind me. As I walked away that night, I realized something. I'd spent so long believing in the idea of her, of us, trust, love, loyalty, and look where it had gotten me. But now I had clarity. She was a ghost from my past, a chapter I was finally closing. The pain was still real, but I knew I'd survive. I'd rebuild from this, and I'd never be blind to lies again. That's what I learned. Sometimes the only way to reclaim yourself is to burn everything to the ground and start fresh. Sometimes revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about freeing yourself from the illusion of trust you once held. Would you like me to continue with the final part? The aftermath was a whirlwind I did fully expect. The day I handed her the keys and watched her walk out, her shoulders slumped, tears streaking her face, something inside me shifted. It was like a heavy weight finally lifted, but the ache of betrayal lingered. I kept replaying everything, the lies, the betrayal, her face when she realized her world was crumbling. I'd thought revenge would bring closure, but it wasn't that simple. There was a strange emptiness I couldn't shake. In the days that followed, I felt a mix of relief and numbness. I was free from her, from the lies, from the chaos she dragged me into. Still, I couldn't help but think about the wreckage left behind, her reputation, my brother's shame, the trust I once had in everything. It was a lot to process, and honestly, I didn't know if I was better or worse for doing what I did. All I knew was that I finally felt like I was in control again, like I'd taken back my life piece by piece. People around me started talking. Some sided with me, saying I did what I had to do. Others called me cold, ruthless. I didn't care. I knew the truth of my own pain. And that's what fueled me. I didn't want apologies or explanations anymore. I wanted to focus on healing, on rebuilding what I'd lost. I started going out more, reconnecting with friends, focusing on my work. Slowly, I felt the grip of anger loosen, replaced by a strange sense of clarity. But the biggest breakthrough was the moment I finally let go of the past entirely. I went to the courthouse and filed for divorce. No big speech, no yelling, just a quiet, final act. I signed the papers, handed over the keys to the house, and watched as everything I'd built crumbled away. And honestly, it felt right. I was walking out on a lie, on a betrayal that nearly broke me. It was the closure I needed. As I handed over the last of her belongings in a box, her clothes, her jewelry, I felt a strange calm settle over me. No more guessing, no more wondering. I'd done what I could to punish her for her lies, and now I was free to start over. The next chapter of my life was waiting, no matter how uncertain it was. I had no illusions that it'd be easy, but I was done being a victim. I was done being blind. Looking back, I realize how much I underestimated myself. I thought I was weak, that I couldn't handle the truth, but I was wrong. I was stronger than I thought. I learned that sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to cut out the poison before it spreads further. I also learned that revenge, real calculated revenge, is about reclaiming your power, not about hurting others just to hurt. It's about ending the chaos and moving forward with dignity. So to anyone reading this, I'll say this: trust your gut. When the signs are there, don't ignore them. Be willing to face the pain, because sometimes that's the only way to truly heal. And if you must seek revenge, do it carefully, smartly, and with purpose. Because in the end, life's too short to be blinded by lies and betrayed by the people who were supposed to have your back. I finally closed that chapter and I feel confident, more confident than I ever have. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about reclaiming my life and trusting myself again. And that's the real victory.